Hi everyone, welcome to AG Triathlon. Today I have with me Kevin Denny, who recently placed second place at Ironman Des Moines. Hi Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, and thanks for being on the show. First of all, congrats on a great race. You must be still quite tired, as it wasn't so long ago, but also happy, I suppose. So why don't you start off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Kevin Denny. I live just outside of Kansas City, Missouri. I work in finance at a company called Black and Beach. So we're a construction and engineering company, but I do finance, so typical reporting and our quarterly and forecast and budget is kind of my big task. So been doing triathlon for I think 10 years now, actually. So kind of full time. I did one a summer when I ran in college, but after that, I got in kind of full time. Been 10 years.
Very cool, very cool. Later, we'll talk a bit more about that T-shirt that says "Every Man Jack." I had a couple of members of that team on the podcast already, so looking forward to hear more about that. But yeah, why don't we talk about the race? Maybe start us off with the week leading into the race.
Yeah. So I'll actually go 2 weeks back because 2 weeks out from the race, I actually had a crash on my bike. I was out for my last big training day, and I don't know, kind of a dumb rookie mistake, but I was eating a banana, about ready to start an interval, and next thing I know, my front wheel's jerking hard right. I overcorrected, and the fork snapped in half, and I went down. So
Well,
that was kind of crazy. It was kind of a big shock. I mean, I didn't even know what happened. It happened so fast. I kind of landed just like on the bike. I didn't have any serious injuries to me, just a little road rash, a couple bruises on like my wrist was bruised and a few other spots. But so that left me scrambling for a bike. I obviously have a road bike and a gravel bike, but doing an Ironman on that would not be that fun. So fortunately, I have a friend who lives just like a mile or so from me. He actually has a felt bike as well, and it was in my size. And so I asked if I could borrow it, and he said yeah, which I thought was kind of crazy because, I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't think I would loan my bike out to someone. So the fact that he did that was incredible. So worked with my local bike shop to kind of get the measurements dialed in because I had done a bike fit with them earlier in the year, and so it was a different crank. I had 165. This was a 172 and a half crank, and so just making sure that the bike was still fit for me worked, and I got a bunch of my components switched over. But so yeah, that was a lot of stress leading into the race that isn't normal, I guess. I mean, there's always stress leading into a race, but that was different. I mean, it was
yeah.
I, I don't know. It was hard to explain. I eventually just had a conversation with my coach, and we just set the plan and just dove back in and just said, let's do this. Like let's wrap our mind around the new norm, which is I'm borrowing a bike and it's not my exact fit that I've been training on all winter. Well, I've had that bike for like 4 years, so just completely changing was left some unknowns going into the race, but I wasn't too worried about them. So race week was pretty low key. Des Moines is only 3 hours from me, so it's actually really nice. I got to drive up on Friday after work and got my packet and just kind of relaxed Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday came very, very early. We had a 5:45 amateur start, which is, I think, the earliest I've ever started a triathlon before. So, but it was good. I mean, it was the excitement was high. I was actually really confident, which was weird because one of my main reasons for doing Des Moines was I've never really put together a good Ironman performance, which I know is hard because the day's so long. Nutrition's such an important piece of it, and also the weather. But it was kind of I wanted to prove to myself, and I was coming in with some very good fitness. Just dealing with a little bit of the bike issues was really just my one unknown. So um, yeah, I mean, the race started off. It was really good. I had one of my best swims ever, which was pretty surprising. I felt super comfortable in the water. I think the swim was a little short. I think I swam like 52:45, but so I don't know what it would have been if it was a full distance. But and someone hit my watch, so I actually don't know the distance. So half of the swim was a two loop, and half of it was actually T1 because someone hit lap. So
That was a long T1 then.
yeah, I had like a 40-minute T1 or something like that. So, um, but yeah, I mean, swim was really, really good. I got out of the water feeling really comfortable. I didn't really know where I was, but I knew I was probably towards the front. Got out on the bike, and it was kind of lonely. I've never been in that situation before where you're out early, and I mean, I got passed by the eventual winner, Ryan. He passed me, I don't know, maybe 20 miles into the bike, and I got passed by two female pros, but that was it on the entire day. I didn't get passed by anyone else. I passed one of the pros back and one amateur later on, but other than that, it was me, myself, and the countryside. I mean, there
Yeah.
was no one. It was crazy.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about the conditions because I was watching the footage with Matt Hansen and Andre Lopez, and it looked absolutely brutal.
Yeah, so it was an overcast morning. It wasn't horrible in the morning. I mean, we're used in the Midwest here. We're used to some humidity. I think it was in the upper 70s in the morning, low 80s humidity. Bike ride was kind of the same. The clouds stayed around for probably 75 to 80 miles of the bike for me. And we even got a little bit of rain. I think the pros got more than I did, but I think it rained on me kind of light for maybe 10 miles. So it was kind of nice. But then after that, the clouds went away, the sun popped out, and it got hot and humid. It was pretty nasty. The last 10 to 20 miles on the bike was getting pretty hot. And then the run was just brutal. I mean, it was, I think, in the upper 80s with a heat index in the mid 90s, I think. So
Yeah.
it was hot. We hadn't been able to really train in that either yet. So that was kind of our first really hot day, hot and humid day.
Mm. Yeah.
And so,
So you mentioned, right, that you were pretty lonely with only two female pros and the eventual winner passing you. So how do you approach it mentally, right? I mean, a long day out. Are you just making sure that you're getting your nutrition in, sticking to the plan, or anything else you're telling yourself?
not really, just stay arrow, just keep turning over the pedals and eat and drink. That was the name of the game. My coach wanted me to have about 90 grams of carbs an hour, and so I was just calculating that based off of how much I was drinking, if I was getting Gatorade at an aid station, and eating some gels as well. So just kind of calculating and I guess talking to myself the whole time.
So what was your target power that you were trying to hold?
In between 240 and 250. I had done pretty much all my training leading up at a 248 was kind of what I was aiming for. And so that was kind of the goal, and I actually hit it spot on. It's actually crazy. So I've been working with Lauren Goss this year with Black Sheep and coaching, and prior to this year, I used to race a half at like 250 watts, and I've never really put a huge focus on the bike. I mean, I came from a run background, and that's my strength, and I just kind of got by on the bike. And she kind of tried to turn me more into a biker, which meant a lot of very specific training, a lot of training that I've never done before, and it paid off because I think I averaged like 248 normalized power for their entire Ironman, and I mean that literally used to be my half power. So,
Yeah,
and I got off really good, so it was awesome.
yeah, that's awesome. And Lauren is also Justin Reel's coach, who's been on the podcast before. So super cool. And how did the new bike or the different bike impact your ride?
It didn't at all. I was actually shocked. So I thought with the longer crank and having to lower my saddle to make the bottom of the pedal stroke and everything still feel the same, that I'm now effectively coming to the top of the pedal stroke like 14 millimeters more. I thought I would have like hip issues or back issues or something. I didn't have any issues at all. I was shocked. I even got like 80 miles into the race, and I that was the first time it like popped into my head like, hey, I'm not even having issues. Like, this is kind of weird because I expected it, with a new bike that I've never ridden.
Yeah,
I think the longest ride prior to the race was an hour and a half. So I thought surely at some point, 3 hours in, 4 hours in, something would just be like, man, this doesn't feel good anymore and hurt, but it never did. So it was pretty crazy.
Crazy, awesome. And then you did a 454 bike, so pretty solid, fastest in your age group as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so into T2.
Yep. T2 was good. It was just kind of quick and easy. Just got in, changed tent, and got my shoes on, and got out to get running. I felt really, really good running off the bike. Um, I actually like running off the bike a lot. It's one of the reasons why I got into triathlon, because from a runner, after my first triathlon, it was like that jello feeling was just awesome. I mean, it was so different and so out of body experience, but you could still run fast. It was like weird that I was like, man, I like this. I want to keep doing it. And so it was the same way in Des Moines. I didn't have tired legs. I felt really good. I was like trying to hold back because I know it's a long day. I mean, you still got a marathon. And it was getting hot. So I just focused on getting fluids at every aid station, trying to get some more Gatorade and electrolytes down. My nutrition strategy was a gel every 5K with, some Gatorade in between and water, and then taking some electrolyte tabs as well. So.
Yeah, very good. And how are you feeling on the run? Because I see 3 hour 25, right? Which for a top age grouper these days at least is probably a slow time. But then if you factor in the conditions plus the rolling course, it's a pretty good time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's one of those like I'm happy with, but I know I left some out there. So it's a 3 loop course, and the first loop was really, really good. I got to about mile 7 though, and I was noticing that I really wasn't sweating anymore, um, which is never good. So my pace dropped a little bit for like mile 8 and 9. Prior to that, I was running like 650 pace, which is a little quick to be perfectly honest. I shouldn't have probably been running that fast, but it kind of dropped to about 7 minute pace, and I thought, well, I mean, this is still fine. I'm still running very fast for a marathon at this pace, and it would be 3 hours or just over, and that'd be incredible. But by mile 10, it was lights out. I mean, it was game over. I walked for the first time, got to an aid station, and pretty much from then on, it was walk the entire length of an aid station. So I don't know, 50 yards or whatever they are, and then I would run in between.
Mm.
And it was just get down as much fluid as I possibly could.
So when you say you weren't sweating and that's not good, so tell us a bit about that because I'm not entirely familiar with this concept.
Yeah, so I think I just was so dehydrated that and low on electrolytes that my body was pretty much shutting down. So
Got
I
it.
was just trying to get in Gatorade, and I had some goo electrolyte tabs on me, so I was taking those as well. So I was just trying to get down as much as I could. I mean, I was sweating so much prior to that that I just lost too much and got too far behind on drinking and fluids. So.
Right. So do you think you overpaced the early stages of the marathon, or this was just essentially an inevitable performance given the day?
A little bit of both. I kind of talked to my coach afterwards, and she made the comment like, you know, it wouldn't have mattered had I taken more electrolytes in earlier. She's of the belief that it wouldn't have really mattered. It was just such a hot day, and that my sweat rate is probably high enough that I just would have got to that same point. It just probably would have hit later. And same with even if I had slowed down. So let's say even if I'd run instead of 650s, let's say I ran 720s early on and just tried to hold that, I mean, that probably would have lasted longer. I probably would have made it past like mile 9 or 10 before I slowed down, but that slowdown still would have happened. So,
Yeah.
uh, for me at least, so I think it was just how humid and hot it was and my sweat rate. It was just, I got too far behind.
Yeah. So essentially, you're at mile 10, feeling quite bad. 16 miles to go. What is happening in your head? Are you aware of people coming up behind you, or how does the rest of the
Yeah.
race happen then?
Yeah, so at that point, I saw my parents and I had asked them because at that point I knew I was in second overall and I knew I was a ways back from first because I saw him running the start lap 2 when I was still heading towards downtown, and so I mean he was already after one lap like I don't know 15, 18 minutes in front of me, so he was long gone and I knew who he was and he's incredible. So um, At that point, though, when I started walking, I asked my parents, I was like, where am I? Like, how far back is third? Or, where am I in my age group at this point? Like, are they closing in on me as well? And they both told me at like mile 11 or 12, I think I did a little out and back, and they said, you haven't lost anything. Like, you're in the same spot. And that was the first time to me that I was like, okay, well, I'm suffering, and so is everyone else. Like, we're all walking at this point at some point during a mile or something. Maybe everyone's doing the same strategy of walking through an aid station and running. So I knew everyone was hurting. It was just a matter of who can hold on the best, I guess. I know at one point I moved back to third in overall, and that guy had also started 4 minutes behind me. So when he passed me on the road as well, I knew he was, a long ways in front of me effectively. So I'd kind of blocked that out and just said, okay, well, let's just hold on. Like, let's get third. Let's try and win the age group still. Let's see what's possible at this point. If everyone's struggling, but those top two are still moving, then that it is what it is, right? And so just manage my day and get through it. And but that guy who went to second, he eventually finally hit the wall that we all had, but his wasn't until like mile 20. And when he hit, I think he walked for quite a bit longer. And I actually passed him on the road. And so I said, okay, well, I still got 4 more minutes to make up, because I knew my parents had told me that he was 4 minutes still in front of me. And so I didn't see him again, so I really wasn't sure going into the last like 4 miles where he was at, where I was at. There are so many people on this trail that you run on that you kind of lose track. And so, but at that point, I was cramping so bad, and I was just trying to get myself to the finish line. I didn't really care anymore about where I was. It was just holding on, surviving.
Awesome. Well, sounds like you still saved what you could, right? So congrats for that. Yeah. Do you now consider that you have done like a good Ironman performance, or are you still left wishing for more?
Both. I mean, coming from a run background, I mean, I talked to my coach on a good weather day. I truly think sub 3 was possible, but given the weather and given that, I mean, hardly any. Most of the pros broke it, but like a guy like Matt Hansen running 2:49 is on that day is just incredible. I mean, obviously he can run faster. We all know that, but and same with Ryan. I think he ran 3:05. He can easily break 3 on a good weather day, and so I still want to do that. I mean, that's just me. But I mean, the problem with Ironman is you're always left to be desired with more. You want more because it's so hard to have that perfect day, because it's nutrition. I mean, you can be in the best shape of your life leading into the race. You mess up one thing on race day with nutrition, and you're walking.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck left wanting more, right? So it will be many years before I do another full. I don't really have that desire anymore. I wanted to cross this one off my list, and I feel like I did. And I am happy with the performance. So
Yeah. So does that mean that no Kona, or how does the?
yeah, no,
Yeah. So how does the rest of the season look like then?
I don't know. Ever since last fall, Des Moines was the focus, and I just said I'd figure out the season after that. I didn't know. I knew I didn't want to do another full unless Des Moines was just an absolute disaster. And it was like, okay, well, let's just sign up for like a Chattanooga or something like that that's in September and go do it. But no, I'm happy with Des Moines, and I don't know. I'll do some local races. I really like a lot of our local races. They're fun to do. I've done them for years, so I always try and make them out to that. I might do 70.3 Boulder, but that's like when is June 21st? It's 5-6 weeks out, so we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I'm like a week and a half out of the race, and I'm still struggling with motivation. So
Yeah. Understood.
I get like an hour and a half into a workout, a bike ride, and I'm just exhausted.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you mentioned that you started working with Lauren, was it a year ago you said, or something like that?
Yeah, this past off season, I think we started in like November. So
Yeah, and you mentioned that the focus then really shifted on the bike. Yeah, like what exactly are you doing differently? Just more volume, different types of intervals? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's just different type of intervals. I'm really not doing a lot of volume. I'm not necessarily a high volume person. I think pretty much all winter and spring, I might have been 13, 14 hours a week. Then we kind of got into an Ironman specific block where I got up to, I think, 18, 17, 18 for a couple weeks, and then came down and then did another 17, 18. So not anything crazy high. I mean, really the only difference between those was I was no longer doing like 2 hour, 2.5 hour trainer rides. I was now outside biking, 4.5, 5 hours, 5.5 hours, something like that. And that was where the additional volume came. Everything else stayed about the same. So it's really just the types of workouts that we were doing. It was a lot different.
Nice. And what would that be? More strength, or what would you say it is?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the off season was based off of strength and big gear, working in like fat max zone.
Mm.
So spending a lot of time there was probably the biggest difference. So prior to Lauren, I coached myself for a while. I didn't do a very good job, to be perfectly honest, and I see that. I basically just was like always in shape, but I wasn't really ever doing anything specific to actually help me. I was just there and in shape. So, I'd have the good race and I'd have some really, really bad races to go with that. And I think that's just because, honestly, I didn't know what I was doing and I was just in
Yeah.
shape.
I mean, coaches just change so much. I mean,
So,
I started working with a coach of my own like a year ago, and I just completely changed everything. So, yeah, I think you
oh, yeah.
definitely made a great call by getting a coach, and especially Lauren. Um,
Yeah.
and
I completely agree. If anyone's on the fence about getting a coach because of money or you just don't think it's worth it, I'm telling you it's worth it. 100%. If you find the right one, right? Like there's a lot of coaches out there and you got to find the right one. But if you find one that works for you, oh my gosh, it's night and day.
yeah, I mean, before you buy an aero helmet and whatever disc wheel, just buy yourself a coach, because
Yeah,
the biggest
yeah,
difference on the day will be you, right? So,
yeah,
yeah, very
definitely.
cool. And Everyman Jack. So, when did you join them?
I joined in 2014. So this is what, my eighth year. I'm one of the, I guess, longest tenured people on the team, other than the owner, Rich, and there's another guy named John Savage who has been on the team the same amount of time, I believe. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I I joined, so back a long time ago. Jesse Thomas, former pro, he
Sure.
tweeted out something like, if you're a good dude and you want to be on a team with good dudes, you should join this team. And I, at the time, was just like, whatever, I'll apply, but I didn't expect to make it. And they were expanding outside of like the Bay Area for the first time, and I happened to get on it, and I haven't looked back. I mean, I've been on it ever since, and as long as they'll have me, I don't plan to leave. So
Very cool. What have they given you that maybe someone outside of the team would not get?
yeah, I think just the camaraderie of the team is just it's indescribable. Like, I live here, in the Kansas City area. I don't have anyone close to me to train with that's from the team. And yet, I got back to my phone. I actually, I mean, it's a different story, but I ended up in the ICU after Des Moines. And when I finally turned on my phone at like 2 a.m., I had like 10 to 15 text messages, like our group chat we have a Discord group chat. Had several messages, had several Facebook messages from people like former teammates that are no longer on Everyman Jack that were just like following it. It's just like, I don't know, you don't get that when you're just, I don't think, on like by yourself, or, I mean, there's some with the local scene and stuff, but the team is just incredible. I mean, we all push each other. We all like to have fun. I mean, yeah, we like to go fast and race to the best of our ability, but at the end of the day, we all also want to just have fun and enjoy the sport because it is a hobby, right? Like, we
Yeah.
spend our free time, wearing lycra and training because we love it, and that's what this team's about: is just having fun and enjoying.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah,
Kevin, was great catching up with you. Congrats once again on your
thank you.
performance at Des Moines. Yeah, I guess pushing yourself to the level that you end up in the ICU is not. Do not try that at home.
Yeah. Uh,
But yeah, phenomenal performance, and wish you all the best for the rest of the season. And hope to see you in one of the big races at the front again.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin. Talk to you later. Ciao, ciao.